Hello and a very good morning, good evening to all my dear students. I welcome all of you over here on this platform. So in today's session, we'll be discussing some common errors, some very common errors. Now, let me first make you understand that what are common errors in English grammar, right? So while having conversation with anyone or while talking to anyone, usually what happens, we sometimes use incorrect subject verb agreement, we misuse a pronoun, we misplace a modifier, some comma usage errors, or maybe there's always a confusion between uh, there, and they are. So these are some of the common errors: dangling modifiers, sentence fragments, and not properly using uh, then or than, not knowing an appropriate distinction or difference between these two. So these are certain common errors which we are going to counter today. Okay, so let's get started and let's see what is there in our session today and how are we going to overcome these common errors. So to begin with, let me introduce you to the topic. First, the topic common error is designed to check your ability to identify grammatical errors which ultimately help you to write grammatically correct English, right? Which ultimately helps you to identify grammatically correct English. Okay, just a moment. Like, it's not only involves your complete knowledge of the topics which we have already discussed, like noun, pronoun, adverb, verb, conjunction, etc., but also some of the topics like conjunction, tenses, articles. But thorough understanding of the topic, punctuation as well is important, right? So this topic also, we will cater to this topic as well in today's session, where to use which punctuation mark, because that's very, very common yet very important, and we usually ignore these things. So we don't have to ignore, we have to understand where to use which punctuation mark. The rules of punctuation will help you make your prose more effective, and their exact meaning changes over time. Let's see how. So errors in grammar, spelling and punctuation are rightly called common errors. Basically these are common errors which is the definition of this topic, as they obscure the meaning of what is being said, decreases clarity and interfere with communication. Now, to deal with problems related to common error, you need to have thorough knowledge of the rules related to topics like noun, where to use singular noun, where to use plural noun, which singular noun will be associated with which verb, and where to use which verb, and for any particular noun or pronoun with adjective to use, where to use pronoun, what tenses to use, how to understand the difference between time and tense, which time and tense to apply in the sentences, gerund and infinitive, how to use these verb forms, conjunction, interjection, articles. Very common yet very important topics of English grammar, right? Now, however, some rules of punctuation are given below which are most common from exam point of view. For example, punctuation, it means the right use of putting in points or stops in writing for principal stops and their usage, like full stop. Let's begin with full stop. Where do we use a full stop? At the end of a sentence. It is also used after statements or imperatives. We went to school today. Full stop. So this is important to use full stop. We have studied this in school also, and I'm pretty sure that you're aware of these rules also. But what we need to understand here is, we have to, while having a conversation in form of writing, or even when you are reading something, or even when you are speaking, you need to understand where to take a pause, where to put a full stop, where to stop reading and continue with the next sentence. So you need to know how to tackle these things in all these three forms: read, write and speak, right? Comma are used to show shorter pauses than a semicolon or a full stop. We usually put a comma between two main clause before but, and, or, but only if the second clauses has a subject. Okay, I think this is clauses. clause or clauses. Commas are put after sub clauses and reported clauses, like he was an intelligent, comma, young boy. So he was both, right? He was a vocal, comma, boisterous man. So he was both. Where to use semicolon? Semicolon is used between two main clauses when the second main clause explains the first. Example, the mother and her daughter start work at every morning. They get up early because there is always a lot to do. Similarly, you see semicolon. Where have I used a semicolon? Here, because I want some continuation from the main clause to the second clause. Where to use colon? Colon follows independent clauses, someone who doesn't need anyone, right? Rani had only one thing on her mind, which is her career. Are used to draw attention to the information that comes after. Now, the whole understanding of the sentence depends on what is going to come after the colon, right? That's why using colon is important, and it is only used in independent clauses. And before the word, phrase, sentence, quotation or list, it is introducing. Moving on. Where do we use a question mark? To definitely question something. Do you love me? What is your name? Etc. Comes after a question. Quotation marks. These quotations are put before and after direct speech. We put a comma before or after the direct speech. Priya said, it's time for the movie. It's time for the movie, comma, Priya said, right? So, importance of these things. Next, where do we use an apostrophe? Apostrophes are used in the possessive form of nouns and short form or contraction. Some examples of contractions: we have, won't, will not, aren't, are not, I will, I will. Apostrophe shows possession also. They are placed before the S to show possession by person or person. For example, the girl's dress. This is a singular subject. I will use apostrophe S. But if the subject is plural, the girls' dresses, all of the girls and all of their dresses, we are talking about all of them. It becomes plural, so I'll use a plural subject and I'll use just an apostrophe here. Mr. Singh's house, one particular person's house. Whereas if I say Singh's house, so I will use Singh's, all the members. I'm talking about all the members, right? This is how we'll be using apostrophe. Ellipsis. What are ellipses? Ellipses consist of three evenly spaced dots. The ellipsis is when you're quoting material and you want to omit some word. Use ellipsis only when omitting words with citations. For example, the ceremony honored some ... from the UK or from the UK, right? Some ... from the UK. This will be from the UK. Okay, so these are some of the punctuation marks. Now let's understand some basic rules as well. One can agree with another person, but agree to with something which doesn't have life in them, something inanimate. I agree with your decision to go on vacation. Agree with a person's decision. But she agreed to help with the project. Agreed to help the project. So you see here, meaning she consented to participate in the project, accepting the task offered. So this is something which doesn't have life in them. It's an inanimate thing. Whereas meaning you share the same opinion as the person about their decision to go on a vacation. So this is a person which is an animate person, like living person. Okay. So remember where to use agree with and where to use agree to. Moving on, use compared to for unlike things. The poet compared her to the morning sun, something which is not real, unrealistic thing. Use compare with for like things, something which is realistic. The dog compared its ears with that of its sibling. So definitely we always do this at home, right? We compare with our siblings about facial structure, about our nature, about our behavior compared with our parents, right? Whereas if you're comparing something which is unlike, which is not realistic, which is, kind of a personification. So you will always do what? You will always use compare. You will always use compare to and not compare with. Okay, this is the difference you need to remember and understand also. Moving on. The difference between game and sports. Sports involve the physical element. Therefore, chess is not a sport but a game, whereas football is a game. Football is a sport. Why? Because it involves physical element. So something which doesn't involve a physical element is a game, whereas something which involves a physical element is a sport. Always remember that. Thinking words like belief, thought are always followed by that. I thought that you will come to home on time. Her belief that life is ephemeral was challenged by her classmates. You see, with belief and with thought, we are using that. Next, a different kind of problem is raised by implied notion that is so often associated with the use of preposition into. You see, he walked into the room is right. The book is into the table is wrong. Something which is moving after getting inside. Moving after getting inside is correct, but does the book moves when it gets inside the table? It doesn't move, right? So you cannot use into the table. In is a representation of inside, whereas to is a representation of movement after getting inside. However, for many kind of motion, if we have the right kind of verb, we can use in. He's running in the water. Isn't it uh, sounds interesting? He's turning the pages in the book. So in the water, in the book, in we can use in any form, in any appropriate form, but into only when there is a movement, when something is inside. Okay. Noun verb mismatch is a very common error which usually people do when it comes to singular and plural thing. Now let's understand this. A herd of horses are better than a flock of sheep. Herd here is singular, right? Herd of horses. Herd is singular, but horses are plural than a flock of sheep. The city feels that this is an innovative idea. A city can't feel. A city can't feel. Yet city here is singular. This sheet of paper will describe. Paper can't describe. Only people can describe. Right? So there are certain mismatch when it comes to understanding or using some nouns and verbs with each other. So always be cautious of the living and non-living objects when it comes to noun also. Split infinitives. Now what is split infinitives? I urge you to not support this bill. I urge you, right? You see, urge is a is a verb which should be followed by to plus verb's first form, but we are not following to here, and the wherever there is not wherever we don't follow whenever we don't follow to with v1 with infinitives, that's called split infinitive. Okay, or whenever we use it later, urge you to not support, right? So to support, there is a word in between not, there is an adverb in between not, so this is also a split infinitive. Actually this is bare infinitive, urge is bare infinitive, I can say, whereas support is to support is split infinitive. They have been split in two parts, they are not together. Okay, they are not together. Now moving on to the next one, its versus its. This is another common mistake. It apostrophe is also easily avoided by thinking through what you are trying to say. It apostrophe s is a contraction of it is, it is, and it or it has. It's a great idea. The lion is in its den. So what do you mean by it's a great idea? It is a great idea, right? It is a great idea. This is the meaning, right? And when I say the lion is in its den, lion is being referred to as its. So for lion, we are using pronoun its, singular pronoun. It's singular pronoun. So you need to understand where to use its and where to use its apostrophe s. EG and IE. EG is short for exempli gratia, and which means for example, whereas IE is short for IDEST, which means that is. For example, that is. Use for example when you want to give an example or several of examples of something just mentioned. Use use that is when you wish to explain briefly or to clarify what you said, or say the same thing in the other words. Why am I telling you here? Why is this being told, or why is it important to know this? Very important, but yet it's a part of common error because we always mix for example with that is. We usually mix it. Okay, so no mixing of it. Next. Now, the difference between practice, advise, license, and license. Okay, one should be SE and one should be C. If the distinction is observed, it is easy to remember whether to spell with C or S. The nouns will always have C, whereas the verb will always have S. Practice, noun. Advice, noun. License, noun. Practice, advise, license, verb. So the S1 is always a verb, whereas the C1 is always a noun. Remember this, okay? And usage should also be according to the same. If you have to use a noun, use practice. If you have to use a verb, use practice, SE, okay? Now, that and which are some very common ones, which are mostly you can say which is usually, not mostly but usually used or misused. We usually use that in place of which and which in place of that. So let's understand the distinction, the difference between them. The difference between that which in this context is the difference between identifying an object and describing that object. So that is used for identification, as in here's the book that you asked for. Which is used for description, as in hence is the file that you asked for which we spent an hour looking for. So you see, for which we spent, for and which we spent an hour. So the object of a statement has to be identified to the hearer, to the listener, which when this is done by describing some quality of the object is done by means of a that clause. This can stand alone, as in hence is the book that you asked for. If the speaker wishes to add further information concerning the object that has been identified, then he or she can do so using the word which clause. There are many more errors which can be detected if you go through the grammar fundamentals properly of the topics mentioned in the starting of this chapter, okay? But let's understand some very basic ones, like phrasal verb. In phrasal verb, what a mistake we do? Apprise is always followed by preposition of, whereas auction is followed by of. Average is followed by preposition out. Bandage is always followed by preposition up. Bluff is always followed by preposition out. Bolster is always followed by preposition up. Browse is always followed by preposition through, browse through. Bumble is always followed by preposition bumble about or bumble around. Cuddle is always followed by preposition up, cuddle up. Crumple is always followed by preposition crumple up. Right? Just read them once. Read them once. Apprise of, auction off, average out, bandage up, bluff out, bolster up, browse through, bumble about or bumble around, cuddle up, crumple up. Just read it once on your own. Cool, quite easy to understand. Moving on. Cream is always followed by preposition of. Cream of. Crawl is always followed by preposition out. Drool is always followed by preposition over. Elaborate is followed by preposition on or upon. Fritter is always followed by preposition away. Gloss is followed by preposition over. Hammer is followed by preposition away. Insinuate is followed by preposition into. Kit is followed by the preposition out. Nestle is always followed by preposition up. Cream off, crawl out, drool over, elaborate on or upon, fritter away, gloss over, hammer away, insinuate into, kit out, nestle up. Just read them once on your own. Okay, I hope that's all. Moving on. Nuzzle is always followed by preposition up. Rustle is always followed by preposition up. Zero is followed by preposition in. Top is followed by preposition off. Act is followed by preposition up. Nuzzle up, rustle up, zero in, top off, act up. Just read them once on your own. Okay, moving on. So you need to remember some points. Let's just tell you some. There are some points to ponder. Some, more, most, and all can be singular or plural pronouns depending on the noun it refers to. A number requires a plural verb. A number of people are waiting outside the door. An example. Whereas the number requires a singular verb. The number of students is fewer in this class to select for the annual day dance. You see, singular verb. In order for a modifying phrase to be used correctly, it must be as close as possible to the word it modifies. With did, use first form of verb. I did go to school. With to, use first form of verb. I like to swim. Fruit in general is an uncountable noun. So, although it was raining, we enjoyed our picnic. An abstract noun has no plural verb. A material noun has no plural number. Okay. Okay. So, enough of common errors discussion. Let's practice some of the questions. Some very, very important yet very common questions which usually come in exam, and we usually do some sort of mistake. So let's understand how grammatically we will be selecting correct sentences. So the first question is, Aravallis are a range of mountains. The Indian Ocean separates India from Sri Lanka. You're almost Aryabhatta in your knowledge of mathematics. You can stick this down with a Fevicol. So what you need to do is you need to understand. Mm, okay, just give me a moment. Okay, so this is an easy set of questions which we are discussing. Let's discuss first. I'll give you a 30 seconds time, and then I'll tell you the answer to these questions. Where does the error lie exactly? Now, what was the direction? Just read it once. Choose the grammatically correct sentence, which means there will only be one correct sentence and other three sentences would be incorrect. So you have to figure that out, okay? Your time begins now. Okay, let me tell you the answers. So, Aravallis are a range of mountains. When you use a collection of something, a range of mountains, right? So, because Aravallis is the name of a mountain range, right? So, Aravallis is not are. This is inappropriate. The Indian Ocean, the used with an Indian Ocean separates India from Sri Lanka. Totally appropriate. You are almost Aryabhat in your knowledge of mathematics. You are almost an Aryabhat. There has to be an article attached when you are making a proper noun look like a common noun and comparing it with someone. So you need to use article here. This was inappropriate. You can stick this down with a Fevicol. Use You can stick this down with Fevicol is appropriate. Fevicol is a material. We don't use article with material now. Inappropriate. Okay. So the correct answer is sentence B. Next question. Sushant is going to London to cut his hair. The sun rises in the east. I met George Bush today morning. I may be able to buy this place after a week. Okay, let's understand the errors here. 30 seconds time. Okay. The answer to this is the answer to this will be Sushant is going to London to cut his hair. You see, uh, to cut, Sushant is going to London to cut his hair will not be the correct answer. To Sushant is going to London for a haircut. This is more appropriate. Okay, so incorrect. The sun rises in the east. Completely correct sentence. I met George Bush this morning. I may be able to buy this place after a week. Buy this place in a week. And of course, this is not this buy, it will be buy buy. Okay, next question. The Mount Abu is in Rajasthan. He was Surdas in his country. He is fond of mathematics. After 1970, the consumption of butter has increased each year. You see, the name of single mountain is not preceded by an article. Mount Abu is in Rajasthan. He was Surdas. He was the Surdas in his country. He is not fond of mathematics, which is correct. After 1970, uh, no, not after 1970, since 1970, the consumption of butter has increased. Next question. A fire broke out in our office. Uh, okay, fire broke out in our office, correct. The students gave the management exam. The students took the management exam. We take an exam, right? Both of them did not go to party. Both of them did not go to party. Neither of them. Peter has not come also. Peter has not come also. It should be uh, it should be Peter has not come either instead of also. Correct? Next. The students have been acting on all day. Unless you have no objection, I will come tomorrow. Men work because they may earn a living. Shreya nuzzled up to her mother with a happy sigh. You see, here, option sentence A, I think the student have been acting on all day, acting up all day is appropriate, right? Unless you have no objection, I will come tomorrow. You see, if you have no objection, I will come tomorrow sounds more appropriate than unless. If you have, there's a condition attached, okay? Men work because they may earn a living. Men work so that, or in order that, or that they may, right? To express a purpose, we use conjunction in order that or so that. So, men work in order that they may earn a living. Shreya nuzzled up to her mother with a happy sigh. Shreya nuzzled up to her mother with a happy sigh. You see, we discussed nuzzle will go with up. Correct? Appropriate. Look at the signature on this document. I never buy rotten fruits. Very few office workers get a good salary. Have you learned the alphabets? You see, sentence A is totally appropriate. Look at the signature on this document. Second one is I never buy rotten fruit. Uncountable noun. Very few office workers get a good pay. Have you learned the alphabets? No. Have you learned the letters of the alphabet? This is appropriate. Okay. Moving on. Give me all the informations that you have received. She possesses many skills. He learned 3 poetries by heart. The buffalo eats grass all day. Now, in this set of question, you see, give me all the informations that you have received. It is never informations. Give me all the items of info that you have received. You cannot use all the informations. Information is about telling everything to someone. Items of info. Similarly, she possesses many skills. She learned, or maybe she possesses many kinds of skills. She possesses many kinds of skill. He learned 3 poetries by heart. It is never poetries, first of all. Also, she learned 3 pieces of poetry by heart. The buffalo eats grass all day. It will be correct. Question number 8. Try it on your own. He complained about the dirty bed liners. She had 4 offsprings. These cattle are mine. There are many dirts on the wall. Very easy, simple sentences. Okay, let me tell you the answers to this. So, basically, he complained about the dirty bed liners. It will be he complained about the dirty bed liner, not liners. She had 4 offsprings. She had 3 children. She had 3 children, or maybe 4 children. You will use it like this. There are these cattle are mine. Okay, correct. There are many dirts on the wall. There are many spots on the wall. Next, the government should work to the upliftment of women. He gave me a 10 rupee note. I have a pain in my leg. The first 4 years plans were successful. Now you see. Option number 1A says the government should work for the uplift for to the uplift of women, not to the uplift of women, for the upliftment of women, right? Then he gave a 10 rupee note. He gave me a 10 rupee note. Don't have to emphasize on me. He gave a 10 rupee note. Simple. This is correct. The first 4 years, the first 4-year plans, the first 4-year plans, 5-year plan. Remember, the government has 5-year plan. So the first 4-year plans. I like a 3-year-old dog. The climate of Delhi is better than Mumbai. I love you reading romantic novels. His behavior was such which could not be pardoned. Now, you have to understand and tell me the answers to the following. Uh, you see, these are very so simple, such simple words, such simple sentences, yet they have so many grammatical errors. So, this is what you have to keep in mind. I like a 3-year-old dog, correct. The climate of Delhi is better than that of Mumbai. I love reading romantic. I love you reading romantic novels. I love your reading romantic novels. Okay. His behavior was such as could not be pardoned. Not which could not be pardoned. As could not be pardoned. Next question. The agenda were discussed in the meeting. So, whenever you discuss something in a meeting, the agenda word is singular and hence you discuss certain things, which is agenda, a plural form of noun. The data given in the book are quite correct, not is quite correct, are quite correct. Okay, 2 deers were caught. 2 deer were caught. When you are using a number, you are specifying it is about something. Correct. This monument is built from bricks and stones. Okay. This monument is built from brick and stone. All the sentences need a correction. Okay. Next. My dog and yours are both lame. As soon as I entered the classroom, he told to sit down. The apparatuses kept in the science laboratory are new. One should keep one's promise. Okay, so you see, one should keep one's promise. A sentence which begins with one will always be followed by a pronoun which is related to one, one's, or oneself. Appropriate, correct, up to my knowledge. Now, talking about the rest 3 sentences, let me correct those sentences for you. Your dog and my dog and mine, your dog and mine are both lame. As soon as I entered the classroom, he told me to sit down. The apparatuses, not apparatuses, the apparatus kept in the science laboratory are new. Okay, now next one, give it a try. I and Ritu have come. One should take care of his health. This information given in the file is quite correct. I like 7-year-old boy. Just try it out on your own. Take 30 seconds time and answer. Okay, so what will be the correct answer to the following? You see, the information given in the file is quite correct. Information follows singular pronoun, singular verb, and singular noun, correct. I and you have, I and Ritu? No, Ritu and I have come. One should take care of one's health. I like 7-year-old boy. I like a 7-year-old boy. I like a 7-year-old boy. Okay, sounds good. Next. This is the same mistake which you made yesterday. This is the same mistake which you made yesterday. Okay, this is the same book which is yours. I hold in high esteem anybody and anything which reminds me of my attainment. Who of the two students is more desiring? Okay, clearly understood which of the two students we are talking about, choice or selection. So when you talk about choice or selection, the question should begin with which. So this is incorrect. I hold in high esteem anybody and anything which reminds me of my attainment. Okay, sounds appropriate. Next, this is the same book. This is the same book as yours. This is the same mistake which you made, that you made. This is the same mistake that you made yesterday. Next question. Move yourself to this side. Let you and Ritesh, I apprise the director of factual position. He awarded of the offer. She resigned to her fate. We have four sentences here. Again, in question number 5, you see the first says, move yourself over to the side. Move yourself. Move over to this side. You don't have to use the term yourself here. Let you, Ritesh and I, apprise the director of factual position. Appropriate. He awarded of the offer. He availed himself of the offer. He availed himself of the offer. She resigned to her fate. She resigned herself to her fate. This is appropriate. Okay, next. I engaged myself in this activity. The clouds have dispersed. She prepared for the trip. This problem affects each of every one of us. Okay, each of every one of us. Already you must have been able to figure out which one is the correct and which one are incorrect ones. Okay, see, I engaged myself in this activity. Appropriate. The clouds have dispersed themselves. Emphatic form, right? She prepared herself for the trip. She prepared herself for the trip. The problem, this problem has affected each and every one of us. Okay, next. Your separation distresses me. Cool. Your separation or separation from you distresses me, not your separation. Separation from you distresses me. Okay. She was sorry to find that she had a little money. She had little money. Just little is enough. Okay. Sentence C is correct. I am glad I have little time left. I am glad I have a little time left. Next. I was sorry to have few rupees. Again, I was sorry to have few rupees. Okay. She read a few novels that she had. She read the few novels she had. I wish you would live here a few days. I wish you would live here a few days. Okay. Again, they all helped each other. They all helped. All is involved. All helped one another, not each other. Okay. Next question. Now, this girl is more cunning than all the girls. This book is more preferable than that. Her strength is superior to mine. Your height is inferior than mine. You see, there's certain small little rules which you need to remember and follow everywhere. You see, in sentence A, the girl is more cunning than all the other girls. This is appropriate. This book is more preferable to that, not than. Her strength is superior to mine. Just like her strength is superior to mine, preferable to that, which is correct. Your height is inferior to mine and not than mine. Next, this manager is senior to that. Aluminium is useful metal than all. She wrote a best novel. You have a clearer style of writing. Please try on your own once. I'll then let you know the answer. Okay, this manager is senior to that. Correct. Aluminium is the most useful metal than all. She wrote a best novel. No, she wrote the best novel. Right? She wrote the best novel. Why? Using superlative degree or a very good novel. Either the best novel or a very good novel. You can use any. You have the clearest style of writing, not a clearest style of writing. Okay, so these are some of the questions which we discussed today. I think you must have understood what we actually. Okay, so basically, anyways, uh, so these were some of the questions which we discussed today. I think something went wrong here. Let me just put it back to where it was. So we were discussing common errors. I think that was all for today's session. In this session, we have discussed